Hi, I'm Lauren Rivers, and welcome to part 1 of my con report for what we officially dubbed the Mega Vacation, Bronycon 2018, which took place this year in Baltimore, Maryland, at the Baltimore Convention Center. So, about 8 months ago, I had the idea when I was looking up Bronycon, and last year, Dan Raccoon had suggested that I go to Bronycon, which, at the time it was like a week before the convention, which I suppose technically speaking I could have gone, but ultimately I decided it was just too tight to make it happen, so I said, maybe I'll go next year. And, I started seriously thinking about it. And as I was looking at it, I started also looking up Star Trek Las Vegas, which I think I came across it from maybe pictures or something from 2017's edition. And I started raising the idea when I realized that they were about a weekend apart about the thought of going to a triangle, basically going from Houston to Baltimore to Vegas and then back home again in what I officially dubbed the Mega Vacation. So I looked it up and I pitched the idea to Shrag, and he said, yeah, which actually kind of surprised me because I probably wouldn't have done it without him, but I really was surprised that he wanted to go for it. But I said, we've never been to a pony con and we've never been to a Star Trek con, which is really weird because I've been a Star Trek fan since I was 5 and I've never been to an actual dedicated Star Trek con. Now, I've been to some sci-fi conventions, but never a Star Trek con. But I'll save that for when I get around to it. But for Bronycon, we stayed in the Hilton, which was the main hotel, which had a banner in the lobby announcing the con. And around the city, you could see banners and a couple of other little bits of signage that indicated that the PonyCon was in town, which I thought was pretty cool because I actually kind of enjoyed looking for them, and most of them actually looked really cool. Wherever they got their stuff printed, I love the signage. So we had Dan Raccoon, of course, was my primary point of contact, and it was Shrag and myself, and we had 2 other roommates that I had never met before, Wayward Pony and Pye. And I'd never met either one of them before, but I trust Dan, and I knew Dan trusted them, so as far as I was concerned, that was good enough for me. And it turned out really, really great. I mean, we all got along fantastically. There was no issues to speak of, not between us anyway, and everybody just got along real well, and it was it was fun hearing a lot of Pye's work stories because he had some good stories about his job, and it was good getting to know Wayward too because he was really really friendly and very, very easy to get along with, and it was a great group of roommates. So, when we got to Baltimore, I kind of relied a little bit on Dan as a travel guide, mostly because he had been to this convention before. I found a little amusement in the irony that, 2 Americans were having a Canadian show us around Baltimore, but, like I said, Dan had been here a few times before, and we had never been to the city. But, it was mostly straightforward getting to and from the hotel. We took the light rail, and fortunately because there was some track damage we had to take a bus for part of the route, but it was fairly simple. And as I was reviewing the trip there, I was pretty confident that I would be able to get us back because while Dan's flight happened to land a little bit before ours, on our way back we were going to be going back or leaving a day after everybody else, so it was just going to be Shrag and myself. But after listening to Dan's instructions and looking at some of the signage, I was fairly confident we could get back without a problem. So, unlike most cons, I didn't really have a specific plan. Most furry cons, I'm pretty much, either eating, suiting, or something else, and I rarely get a chance to go to panels. But, with Bronycon, I actually attended a couple of panels. I think I only suited once, which really kind of surprised me a little bit. I mean, I hadn't planned to suit a whole lot, but I thought I might have done it more than once. And, of course I had my suit and, got to look around the con space, which was a lot of fun. This con, I didn't actually take my suit into the dealer's room, but, they didn't really seem to have any major issues with it. Most of the fursuits I saw around were pretty good. There were a lot less fursuits than a FurCon. I mean, here they were definitely considered to be, I think, something special because, where FurCons fursuits are a dime a dozen, especially even the high-end ones. Here just full costumes that were other than cosplay, they were pretty rare. I mean, I think you probably saw maybe a dozen full fursuits, and of course, all the ones that I saw were, some of them were varying degrees of quality, but they were all pretty nice. And a lot of the cosplays were very detailed, which I got to give folks credit for that. So, anyone that had a halfway decent cosplay, it's like you could tell they put a lot of love and a lot of work into it. So it was definitely well appreciated. And I saw some really cute fursuit of Starlight in magician outfit, I think. I'm sure it's a reference to an episode that I'm blanking on at the moment. And, there was a really cute Flutterbat cosplay Kigurumi who was walking around with a big Macintosh. And, those were some of the ones that really kind of caught my attention. And, of course, there was Pye brought his suit. I think the only time both of us suited, we were together, so that was a lot of fun. It was kind of nice not being the only one. And, I know that during the course of the con we kept hearing about this, Wild Bill's soda or something. And I kind of wanted to try it, but it didn't seem like there was a way to sample it. And, in order to get your money's worth, you had to drink a lot of soda. You had to buy one of these metal mugs, which, I didn't really want another thing to be carrying around. So, I just kind of wanted to try it. But unfortunately, I just didn't get a chance to because, buying a mug would have been $20, and then you would have had to get like 4 or 5 refills to make it worth it. And I just didn't think it was going to be something I could practically do, as much as I would have liked to try a sample, but I couldn't tell if they were actually letting people do that, so, we kind of let that slide. But, a couple of the places that we had to eat, we found this place called Red Boat, which was like a banh mi restaurant, which, Strag and I really like banh mi, and had some really fantastic sandwiches and tacos and other things for not a lot of money, and it wasn't that far from the hotel, so that was our first restaurant find, I think, that was pretty pleasant. And, I think one of the other places I kind of remember pretty well was Irish Pub, which I think was the last dinner we all had together. And I think it was called Tirnanog or something like that. And, it was on the edge of this little mini mall. We tried to go to the Cheesecake Factory, but it had longer of a wait than we were willing to submit for. So we went across the mall to the Irish Pub, and that was really good. That same little shopping center towards the back, I think during one of our earlier explorations to another restaurant, we had come across apparently a relatively new Build-A-Bear. Nobody else seemed to remember it being there the previous year, so it must have been established relatively recently. But, of course, when we went inside, somebody had to get a pony. I forget who or what was bought, but I know we bought some teddy bear clothes for our teddy bears back home. And, other than wandering around for a little bit, it's like, there were, I think I had some of those pony plushes, but mostly I was just thinking, it's like, I don't have space to bring home another plushie, which I guess goes to the next thing that I'm about to talk about, the dealer's room exploits. Because Dan had a Scootaloo plush that was fairly sizable that he had been planning to buy for a while. And as for me, I briefly considered a Sunset Shimmer plush because even though I would have loved it, the responsible part of me won out. I was thinking, you're not going to have room for this in your luggage. You're going to have to ship it home. It's going to take a huge chunk of your con budget, which I exceeded by a good amount, by the way. And, a whole bunch of other adult reasons why I probably shouldn't have bought a Sunset Shimmer plush. So, I decided to resist and, wait until I'm really sure because, stuff like that, big purchases, things like that, I don't like to do that on impulse. I always like to make sure I know exactly that, it's the right time, that I have the money, that I have some place to put it, all that stuff. And the stars didn't align this time. And, maybe next year, I'll think about it, and maybe next year it'll be the time. But just right now, it just wasn't a good idea. But, among some of the things I did actually end up buying in the con space was a canvas Luna bag, which is kind of where I kept all of my convention cash for most of the trip. A couple of different prints that I really liked. wooden keychain and a plastic keychain, both of course of Sunset Shimmer. First one that I found with the wooden ones had her human self on the other side, which, not that I don't like that version, but I really wanted the pony Sunset Shimmer, so I kind of kept digging through the little box, and eventually I found the right one that had the pony on one side and the cutie mark on the other. And I got a lapel pin with Sunset Shimmer's cutie mark, and a embroidered hat with the same symbol, which I actually wore most of the rest of the con, and a Twilight Sparkle scarf, which I think I wore almost every day while I was at Bronycon, just because the convention space was actually relatively cold, and it was just kind of felt good. You can see it in some of the pictures that I ended up getting. But we checked out the karaoke late at night, and I think Dan was almost going to do a song, but of course we showed up right as it was ending, so they really didn't have time to do any extra people. I briefly toyed around with the idea of, if I was going to do it, what song would I do? And I kind of think I know now, but I don't know. I mean, I especially wouldn't have probably had the guts to do it, especially not on spur of the moment. Maybe if I have a year to build up the guts to do it, I might actually do it next year. But for those of you that are curious, I think I'll keep that a secret, at least for now. But I do have a song that I might practice and see if I can do it. But after the performance was over, they had a troupe of folks that performed Dance Magic, which was one of the Equestria Girls songs, and it was actually a well rehearsed routine. I mean, they clearly had practiced a good amount, and it looked really good. The costumes were pretty nice, and it was a nice way to cap off the karaoke contest. So I thought that was cool. And of course, then there's Wayward Pony's panel, who I think he was doing on Sunday, and it was titled "Coping with Limitations Through Ponies." And now, originally both Dan Raccoon and I kind of had a conflict, and we wanted to go support him, of course, but he had a panel he was thinking of attending, and I wanted to get Ingrid Nilsson's autograph. And so ultimately, while I was waiting in line, they told me that Ingrid wasn't going to be there until later. So, since I didn't have anything else to do, I slipped into Wayward's panel a little late, and Dan's panel got canceled. So I kind of consider it one of those things that was meant to happen. So we all kind of ended up at Wayward's panel, which was about different folks telling their stories about how they dealt with different things, like learning disabilities, vision impairment, confidence/anxiety issues, and a few other things that provided some interesting insight. And, most of it was really interesting. I mean, it was kind of just something that, and I'm assuming this is probably the point with these sorts of things, but it made me think a little bit about how things, when people don't understand what's going on with you, how that can have effects on you. It's like, there are a lot of things that before I had experienced them, or similar things that I didn't quite understand, like anxiety, or mental illness. I mean, I used to think that it was just one of those things that I guess I just didn't understand it. But when I actually suffered from it a while ago, it really just kind of changed my perspective on the whole thing. And ever since then, I've been a lot more appreciative of the good days, and a lot more understanding about people with mental health issues. And it's really, I think, helped me become a better person. Not that it was fun having the experience, but it taught me some things, and I think I learned from it. So I mean, it was a growing thing, I guess. So you can say that. But unlike most conventions, which I don't think I'd ever really done this before, I went autograph hunting, which was odd for me because, well, I guess it had never been something that really was really my focus before. But since I initially had shown up to the con just with the intention of getting Tabitha St. Germain's autograph, who does the voices of Luna and Rarity and Granny Smith and a couple of other characters, and I got on her line, and that was kind of where it was originally supposed to end. So they were doing photo and autograph combinations, and of course Dan had told me that they had prints of their characters usually at their autograph tables so that I didn't have to bring anything. So that was fun, and I got to the front of the line, and I got to talk to her for a minute, and got my autograph signed and got a picture, which I thought was really cool, and that was a lot of fun, and definitely kind of sparked a bug in me, I think, that just kept on going. But since I was already in the autograph area, and Peter New's line had been relatively short, I decided I wanted to wander over and get his autograph too, especially since there was nobody else there. So I got a chance to interact with him, and got his autograph and photo, and that was a lot of fun. And after that, I kind of became determined to try and get, I guess, as many of the major autographs as I could. And I knew that Michelle Kreber and Ingrid Nilsson were both doing autographs. I hadn't thought to try and get theirs first, but after I'd gotten Tabitha and Peter, I was like, I need to complete this set. So I was trying to decide on when to go get Michelle's autograph, and I was thinking about how the windows tomorrow might conflict with something, and I saw that she was signing after Bronypalooza, which I'll get to a little bit later. And with Michelle Kreber, I kind of had to wait for a while I guess the rest of the concert was going on, which was a little bit, I don't know. It was a little bit of louder music than I prefer, that I couldn't really understand for about an hour. But it was kind of worth it, I guess, because I got to say hello and tell her and Black Griffin how much I liked the concert, and she was gracious, and great, and signed a print that I really liked that was really cute, and Michelle Kreber wrote Apple Bloom's first line on her autograph card, which really just made my day. So thank you, absolutely, if you ever happen to see this. And lastly but not least, I went and got Ingrid Nilsson's autograph Sunday afternoon, I think. And of course, her line wasn't too bad, but it was good to see her. And after having seen her panel the previous day, which we had gone to, I guess expecting something a little bit different, but she decided to turn the panel over to most of the attendees and just kind of let them tell their stories and such, which was great. I mean, it was interesting hearing some of the stories that some folks were relating to. And afterwards she was doing autographs and a few other things, which I had attempted to get her autograph then, but of course she ran out of time, which I completely understood. So I was not at all disturbed. I knew I would get another shot. So that went the next day and got a chance to get a picture and an autograph, which was really cool. So it was definitely nice to get to know her a little bit. And that's the story of my autographs. We ran into Teric and Dr. Wolf, and I got to see Teric a little bit more on Sunday. We kept on trying to connect, but I found it crazy that even at a Ponycon where I know like less than a dozen people, I still found it hard to find some of the folks I was looking for. I mean, it's a 5,000 person con, but even still, I figured if it's a con where you're not trying to find 30 million people like I am at furry cons, it seemed like it should have been easier. Now, as far as the difference between the two cons, I mean, mostly they're kind of the same in a lot of ways. I mean, they're really not that different. And, I guess the only difference was the frequency of costumes. Furry cons, costumes are a dime a dozen. And at pony cons, they're a lot more special. But for the most part, I think it's also, autographs are probably something that doesn't happen as much at furry cons, or at least not in the same way, perhaps because it's a different relationship to the creator and the product than it is in something mass developed like My Little Pony. But other than that, I mean, it was very similar in terms of structure. And I was kind of thinking that we better go to a Bronycon while they're still here, because I knew at a certain point, and I've always kind of suspected this to be the case, was that pony conventions aren't going to last forever. The difference between pony and furry is that pony in particular, it draws from a single source, and I think once this cartoon ends, it's going to reach a point of diminishing returns, perhaps. And we wanted to go to Bronycons while there were still a few good ones, because I know there was some that had shut down in recent years, and we wanted to go to Bronycon while it was still going strong. Of course, we didn't know it was going to be next year was going to be the last, but I'll get to that in a minute with closing ceremonies. But for the most part, I think the cons were very similar in terms of experience, and I had a lot of fun. But I guess quickly I'll go over Bronypalooza, which was a concert that was going on Saturday for I think like 3 hours, and the opening act was Michelle Kreber and Black Griffin, which had a bunch of songs that I'd never heard before, but now it kind of makes me want to check out some of her CDs. So I guess I'll be doing that when I have an opportunity. But they had laser lights and a lot of good stuff, good music. They had some chairs in the back, and I kind of would go back and forth between being up close and being further back, because you could feel the bass, and after a while that kind of gets to you. But the concert was very enjoyable. I had a lot of fun, and I guess the only other thing to really talk about is closing ceremonies. Of course, we lined up early for closing ceremonies, and I'm not sure exactly whether the left hand wasn't talking to the right hand, but things weren't exactly super straightforward. They had one way of how they were letting people into the room, and then they changed it, and things kind of went up and down and became a little chaotic for a while. When we finally did get into the room, it was just in time to hear that the con was ending with the next year's iteration, which really wasn't how I wanted to end Bronycon. But I'm hoping that maybe there's some sort of a I don't know, maybe that the con keeps going somehow, at least for a few more years. I don't know. But whatever it is what it is, and we'll probably go next year just because it is the last Bronycon. But more on that later. But everybody, we were staying until Tuesday, because unlike usually where we head home on Mondays, we were going to another con right after this, which is Star Trek. And as far as Bronycon, so we actually had an extra day. So we went to breakfast at this little hole in the wall that I found with the whole gang in basically this restaurant that kind of had some of the seating area in the basement. And the food was good. It was pretty good average breakfast fare, and we really enjoyed it. And I think everybody kind of liked my random find as far as restaurants go. And around lunchtime, we bade everyone farewell and sent them on their way. And then it was just me and Shrek for the afternoon. And we kind of just relaxed for the afternoon, which was kind of nice to not have to go anywhere on the Monday of the con. And later we explored for a local Chinese food restaurant, which I had found, which was easier getting back from than going to. But the food was good. We didn't end up eating all of it, of course, because they gave us a lot of food. But that was it. And then we packed up our stuff on Tuesday morning and headed out to Vegas. That's it for now, and on to part 2, Star Trek Las Vegas. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter and a few other places on the web, or support me via Patreon or Ko-fi. Zebra hugs!